In Argentina, one night in the capital, Buenos Aires, a group of ordinary people are taking to the streets. Protest water and power outages. You know, there's a huge gap between the rich and the poor. The male protagonist, Juan, is considered a middle class. He was on his way to visit an old friend, followed by a classic music backing track. Juan played a game of cards with some friends. So look out for 3 of Juan's friends. They are the owner of the house, Tano, bald brother with a little bald hair, and the white-haired man with gray hair. Then there was a sudden power outage in the house. It disturbed the nature of everyone for a while. Juan subconsciously took out his phone to check. But strangely, the phone freezes and can't be turned on. And everyone in the house is like that. Just as everyone was talking about guesses. But dreams suddenly came from outside. At first it sounds like something heavy is hanging down to the ground. Alfredo, Anna Tarno's wife's exclamation broke the silence. It was said that someone downstairs suddenly fainted. Everyone immediately looked out the window, and there are some white shells floating outside. It looks like a winter snowflake. This finding is quite surprising, because Argentina is currently experiencing a hot summer. And here's what's even more incredible. The cars on the street suddenly spun out of control. It made everybody nervous. They all gave up the idea of going downstairs. Tano saw this and tried to call the landline alarm. But on the other end of the phone is a blind eagle. All kinds of weirdness indicate that something is wrong in the outside world. There's no chance of a sudden snowfall in a season like this. The white-haired man put his hand on the glass. He immediately felt the cold, thinking about the safety of my wife and children at home. So he rushed out the door despite everyone's dissuasion. But just as the white-haired man walked out a few steps, the body fell down involuntarily. Keep him from burning. Apparently, the snowflakes outside are absolutely poisonous. If you breathe it in, you fall to the ground and you die. 10 minutes later, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. Everyone also put on thick cotton-padded clothes. Tano, the homeowner who has studied communication, makes a bold guess. He thinks it might be related to solar storms, due to the electromagnetic pulse generated by the storm, to affect electronic devices. And there was nobody on the street. The white world is like a ghost town. Then the lights suddenly lit up on the opposite building. A sleepy neighbor appears on the windowsill, and he saw Tano and the others standing by the window. I'm waving my arms and gesturing something at the moment. Everyone meant to warn him not to open the window, but the other party completely misunderstood this expression. The moment he stuck his head out the window, the drifting snowflakes took his life. The wife in the house came over. He shook her husband doubtfully. But the next second, he also fell on the windowsill and died. This scene made everyone feel helpless and sad. One also thought of his wife and daughter. As the sky outside gets brighter, one decides to leave here and go home. With the help of the people's rights, he put on a thick cotton-padded coat and put on a household mask and gloves. And everybody agreed that just make sure you're covered. Then there won't be any problem. Finally, with the encouragement of friends, one cautiously walked outside. As you might expect, those deadly snowflakes didn't hurt her. At this time, it is known that electronic devices such as mobile phones are malfunctioning. All modern cars don't start, so one had to walk home. He glanced at the corpse of his friend on the ground. Then he left with firm steps. The next adventure is officially launched. Related. This is where the story of the end times and human nature unfolds. Not long after, one walks out of his friend's block, and what he saw surprised him. The whole city was enveloped in the silence of the saints. The place where he was angry was almost full of corpses. Obviously, this mysterious snowfall caught people off guard. You can't be prepared for this. Humans never imagined that snowflakes were poisonous, except for some accidents that can be seen on the ground. Weird thing, even the telephone poles had corpses hanging from them. Body. It looks like the one above is a hapless emergency repair worker. When you die, you can only use this posture to regret the death. Overnight, the famous Argentine capital fell like this, against biting winds and deadly snowflakes. One could only wrap his coat tightly and move on, although it is only 5 kilometers away from home. But every step he takes is very difficult. Similar scenes along the way. One is also gradually no longer afraid of the situation around you. Just when he's numb and feels nothing, a sharp whistle suddenly came into my ears. Follow the sound and look forward. I see in the snowflakes flying in the sky. There was a soldier in uniform standing up straight. Juan doesn't know what the other party means. But when he turned around, he found that the figure was gone. I don't want to continue on my way. He took a shortcut to bypass the main road. I don't know how long it's been. A terrifying train appeared in sight. The scene here is equally appalling. The corpses on either side of the track say it all. It looks like people are running away from the car. But the next second and frozen frame my life. Juan thought only the city was affected. But I didn't expect that as long as there are snowflakes, there will be death. Just as he was about to leave, strange knocking sound came again. Suddenly, I looked at the people in front of me in shock. It's obvious. They also know how many snowflakes are outside. There's a girl on the glass. Wrote a life-saving word. It seems that she is eager to get out of here. Humanitarianism at heart. Juan is careful. Into the other side of the carriage. And the carriages that have not been invaded by snowflakes are also in front of you. There was a group of survivors huddled inside. They want to know what's going on outside. Because the mask on the head cannot be taken off. Both parties can only communicate through gestures. The crowd has been known to be trapped for more than 6 hours. They witnessed everyone who ventured out of the car. So far, no one has been able to leave this place. The temperature in the carriage is now close to freezing. But I can't find a solution right now. Looking at this group of desperate survivors, the pattern indicates that once tissue is found, we'll notify the rescue. Then he crouched down to get some supplies. But there is an inexplicable pistol in the backpack. I'm going to get help, I promise. Despite the efforts of the people behind him, Juan packed his bags and left the carriage. Soon after, I came to my community. It's just as suspected, it's full of lying corpses. Entering the apartment through a broken door, Juan saw a dead dog wearing a helmet. That means you probably tried. Follow the dim light to the 18th floor. Juan saw many survivors in the corridor. I don't bother to say hello to my neighbors. He went straight to his house. And all the furniture in the room was kind of wobbly. It's like a thief made a sweep. Since the wife and daughter are not at home, does that mean they have been killed? Then there was a sudden movement in the house. Juan went out to take a look. It turned out to be a strange man. He rushed up to ask why he had come into his house, and ask him if he knows where the people in the house have gone. The man replied hastily, he's just scavenging for some medicine in his lifetime. During the argument, a neighbor came in to help explain. They can prove it's all true. Learning of the misunderstanding, Juan let go of his hands. But the man looks at the back of his hand. That's no. Worth Clara. The source is Juan's wife, Irene. He first kicked out the neighbors in the house. And then I got some sad news. Turns out he texted his husband last night. Said that her daughter went to a classmate's house for the night. Juan was still playing cards with his friends back then. So I didn't know my daughter was not at home. Since the arrival of deadly snowflakes, Elena never received any more messages. After hearing the description, Juan was furious. The blizzard outside the window is still raging, and the person they cared about the most has disappeared. Bring it to sort out your emotions. The couple decided to go to their daughter's school to find clues. But when Juan opens the door, but suddenly bumped into the survivors of the whole building. Apparently the man just now spread the news. Everyone wonders how Juan got out. There was a strong desire in the eyes of everyone. Everyone wants to know the mystery. Juan confessed, I don't have the ability to be immune to snowflakes. He believed that snowflakes were toxic only when they floated, but it automatically expires after landing. This explanation did not let people off. The bald leader also blocked the way. He knew very well that Juan must be hiding a mask, so he wanted to use the name of the temporary neighborhood committee. Decided to requisition Juan's mask on the spot. It turns out that the water pipes in the building have already frozen. Whole buildings had to go out and find water. This sentence made Juan very anxious. He had to jerk out the pistol. I am neither a god nor a messenger. Juan just wants to find his daughter before making other plans. Under pressure, the bald head and the others could only watch the couple leave. However, just as Juan came downstairs, the bald man found the gun and chased after him. Whipper, we're in. In the end times, if there are no legal and moral constraints, someone with a little bit of power can reign supreme. As the intense chase draws nearer, Juan and his wife went to a room on the second floor. Soon the bald head and his men blocked the door. It's only a matter of time before we break through. Juan's original plan was to find his daughter himself, but now he has to leave with his wife. Seeing that people outside are about to rush into the room, Juan puts the only mask on his wife and told him some precautions. When the wife jumped from the second floor to the car on the first floor, the couple finally lost their breath. Juan doesn't know how to deal with those people, but the plastic bag on the ground inspired him. Just after the door was completely knocked open, the bald man rushed into the room with a few of his men. Huins jumped from the second floor with a plastic bag, and the plastic bag soon filled with frost. He stumbled and walked less than 100 meters. He fell into the snow due to severe lack of oxygen, bringing Juan Tong to wake up in a coma. He found himself lying in a car. There were people in masks sitting around. Then a familiar voice came from the driver's seat. It turned out that it was his friend Tano who saved him. And next to her is the wife who just left. Turns out Tano was at home trying to start an old Ford. Surprisingly found that only antique cars can run. They first went to the fire brigade to find more masks. Then it turned and came here. The car went back to Tano's repair shop and accidentally found some weapons. No matter what happens in the future, Juan and his wife went upstairs to take a break. He plans to go to the school immediately to find clues. Half an hour later, the couple arrived at their daughter's school on foot, but there's no one here. Found a photo from the class display rack. It shows his daughter and some of his classmates. The wife pointed out that one of them was the one she was looking for. Here we go. Just find out the student's home address. Elena goes to the academic office to find student files. But suddenly I heard a noise from outside. 1. Realize there are other people's Elena out looking for. Eventually the sound came from a blocked door. Looking through the door, there seems to be a boy locked inside. He looked very angry, and he was frantically abusing himself in Chinese. At this time, Juan, who had completed the task, rushed back. The wife recounted the situation. Who are you? A slap makes the boy instantly calm down. He explained that he had been maliciously locked up by his classmates and have been here all day and night. Juan told him that no one would come to his rescue because there's a poison going on outside. The boy rushed out to check the situation, but the situation in front of him soon stopped him. I saw a pile of corpses lying on the playground. They were some of the students who were holding the boy. Elena came over and explained the cause of the incident. Then he took out the photos he got and asked. The boy just glanced. He immediately recognized the classmate as his sister. Without further ado, get in the antique car you found. 3 people soon arrived at the boy's house. Juan asked the boy to stay in the car for the time being. He and his wife went in to find someone. So Juan just kicked open the door. The scene surprised the boy. I can't help but have a bad premonition. Juan calls out his daughter's name, but the empty room is quiet. Check down the hallway to the backyard. In the swimming pool, 8 people fell in various positions. Apparently at the table, they were caught eating al fresco. Juan held back his sadness and slowly walked into observation. He picked up a girl's head and looked. Not the person you're looking for. Immediately thought the boy might be lying, because the facts in front of you speak for themselves. For a moment, Juan felt suffocated. Elena stopped the sad boy. Later, the boy lying in Elena's arms developed a high fever. The couple decided to take the boy away after negotiation, and he hasn't. On the way, I found a pharmacy by the roadside, so Juan got out of the car immediately to find antipyretics. Although he doesn't like such a boy, but in action, he is doing good things. Elena placed the boy in an empty room. Then she and her husband rummaged for medicines. At this time, there was a sudden pat from the main entrance of the pharmacy. On closer inspection, a pregnant woman came outside. He said his water broke and he needed help, so I want to beg the Juan couple to show kindness. Elena couldn't help but agree to open the door directly when the pregnant woman is put in, and he just burst out laughing. Don't move, Grandpa, or I'll shoot you. Give me the car keys. There's no need for you, Dad. Take it easy. Sometimes kindness is not rewarded. Then the robbers stole Juan's car keys and put him in a room with Elena. Wait until the robbers outside drive away. He just opened the door from outside. A moment later, 3 people dragged their tired bodies, moving forward in the snow. Although there are cars parked everywhere on the road, but they're not the antique car they're looking for anyway. Just when passing by the previous train station, one suddenly stopped. He looked around, surprised to find the corpses that were littered on the tracks. It's all gone. Follow the passage to the carriage where the survivors are trapped, except for the still empty corpse. There's still gummy mucus on the seats. It's easy to imagine that the survivors were never rescued. Maybe they've suffered a worse disaster. That night, the men and women who robbed Juan drove into a gas station. A man with a mask gets out of the car to refuel. The women stayed in the car and listened to the music and got high. At this time, a crisp sound suddenly came from behind the man, and he shines his flashlight. It doesn't matter. In the next second, the man died in his own screams. At this moment, the woman in the car is shaking her head to the rhythm. But then it arrived, and the car shook violently. He thought it was a prank by his boyfriend outside. But I don't know that I am about to face death. The next morning, Juan got the address from the boy's mouth. To find my daughter, he decided to go alone. Friend Tano found out and persuaded him to give up. He thinks the chances of survival are simply too low. Afterwards, Juan left his friend's house on foot. He has to cross 17 blocks to reach his destination. And yet, Juan didn't get very far. A red antique car is parked on the side of the road. Bring it to see the other party's appearance carefully. Only then did Juan realize that the other party was his friend. The two men resumed their friendship. Since then, it also began a more thrilling adventure. The surroundings along the way are very strange. They didn't see a single body from start to finish. But there are broken car shells scattered on the ground. Soon after, the antique car was forced to stop. The reason is that the road ahead is. Hundreds of cars were blocked. It doesn't seem to be man-made at all. Just as the two tried to find another route, the roar of the engine suddenly came from a distance. Pretty soon, dozens of trucks loaded with soldiers drove by slowly. The leading officer also saw Juan and the others. He warned that the entire city has been put on lockdown by the military. So Juan must go back to where they came from, or they'll open fire on it too. Watching the back of the army leaving, national security decides to follow the motorcade through the obstacles. However, this risky move was soon discovered by the soldiers. They are really shooting like crazy here. Sharp gunshots cut through the sky. The car unluckily rolled over. Then there was a sudden commotion on the other side of the bridge. Immediately after, there's a tidal wave of alien life coming in. The sheer numbers sent the soldiers into despair. One by one, they were caught by the giant insects. And in the midst of the screams, it became a feast for monsters. These alien creatures look like beetles. Each one is as good as a small car. Now Juan, who was hiding in the distance, witnessed everything. No one thought. It turned out that there was an alien invasion behind it. Wait until the swarm is gone. Juan and Tano cautiously step outside and picked up the submachine guns that the soldiers had dropped. Keep going down the icy road. The two discovered a large number of nests in the municipal square. Too late to think about what's going on. Suddenly, an ear-piercing insect chirping came from the front. The two of them hurriedly hid in a corner. Soon the giant bug was seen dragging a corpse. What's even more terrifying is, giant insects dig a hole between two nests and then drag the prey into the ground. This situation made the two want to evacuate quickly, but one slipped and hit the wall. This movement instantly broke the surrounding dead marks. There was also a dense crawling in the cave. In the nick of time, one shoots the bug in the head, and that miraculously killed him. However, the two had not had time to catch their breath. The ground under my feet trembled violently again. A figure appeared not far from the critical moment. One saw this and immediately fled for his life with Tano. At the same time, a strange movement came from behind. It turns out that these bugs are eating the corpses of their own kind. Looks like they're crazy enough to eat anything. The two ran along the footprints in the snow, finally came to a church similar to a bell tower. Now the heavy iron door is closed. No matter how they slapped, no one answered. Just as the heavy group was about to pounce, a blazing flame exploded on them. The two looked up. It turned out that the people upstairs were throwing Molotov cocktails. The blazing wall of fire temporarily blocked the attack. Juan and Tano took the opportunity to enter the church. Follow the spiral staircase to a secret room. They saw more than 10 survivors gathered here. After a short break, someone told Juan, "Those monsters are from the sky. If you don't believe me, you can check it in the window on the top floor." Then Juan saw a terrifying sight. The oppression in front of you is almost suffocating. Only in the dark night sky, countless meteor-like red light is piercing through the clouds. And each one means the arrival of another batch of bugs. Until this moment, Juan just realized, how hopeless is my daughter's survival? A few hours later, Juan learns that people here are planning to leave, because the food shortage is imminent. Midnight, taking advantage of the short practice of homing in the group, A procession of more than a dozen people quietly walked out of the church. At this time, the street is filled with a strange atmosphere. The sky is still falling with red meteors. I don't know how long it's been. They're leaning against the wall underneath a bridge. Crowd, you have to cross an abandoned bus here. Then step into a hidden passage. But just as everyone is pinching their hands and feet, the surrounding insect swarm suddenly became restless. Juan tries to help a slow mother and daughter. Unfortunately, I was trapped in the bus. Looking through the broken car window, there are a few giant insects crawling back and forth outside at the moment. One of them suddenly stopped. He seems to have found his own prey in the car. At this critical juncture, the thick bell suddenly shook the sky. It turned out that there were 2 elderly people in the church who did not leave. They rung the clock with their last strength. All the survivors finally made it through the tunnel. They finally got rid of the pursuit of the swarm of insects. This is somebody pointing to the sky. Church in the distance turned into a burning torch. Everyone looked at the light in silence. Also understand that it was the old man who bought them time. And Juan followed Tano home. However, when he came upstairs to check, shocked to see his wife holding her daughter, Juan steps forward to touch the child's face. He couldn't believe how his wife found a woman. Elena told him she didn't go out. Instead, the daughter followed the other survivors to find it. 10 minutes later, after telling everyone the truth about the alien invasion, everyone decided to join the military, designated refuge. It is worth mentioning that Juan's good friend, the bald guy, didn't leave. He wants to stay at the garage in Tano and wait for news. It is known that communication equipment is still unusable, but many cars can start. The sights along the way are slightly reassuring. Scattered through the streets were some survivors. The highway at this time is like a frozen dragon. Crowded vehicles, all the way to the end of the field of vision. Not a single living person could be seen on the entire highway. I don't know where the original people have gone. A few hours later, a light suddenly appeared on the side of the road. Fiery supermarket. It's completely different from the city's death memory. This is a human head drive. Hilarious. Juan and the others immediately decided to stay. I also quickly learned the basics here. Some say this is the largest gathering place nearby. Grain reserves in the warehouse. Enough to support hundreds of people. After a long-awaited meal, Juan had stopped thinking about going to any shelter. Early the next morning, a restless sound came one after another. A curious one followed the crowd towards the entrance. And then we saw the snow stop for days. The long-lost sunlight penetrates the clouds. The moon shone on the snow. There was a lot of excitement about this sudden transfer. It's like seeing the dawn of hope. But just as everyone cheered, but to his horror, Tano realized something was wrong. The original compass is completely reversed. And that means weird things are going to happen. Then a car suddenly stopped in front of the supermarket. Immediately after, 3 masked men with guns jumped out of the car. Without saying a word, they directly fired at the crowd. Indiscriminate killing is not done at all. Soon the whole square was in chaos. The survivors can only run for their lives aimlessly. This instantly aroused Juan's anger. Unarmed, he decides to fight back with Tano. Just a moment of kung fu. 3 attackers were killed, too. The last one fled the scene in a hurry. Juan lifts the mask of one of them. But it was clear that the other party was a middle-aged woman. And there is also a string of children's pendants hanging around the neck. In a trance, Juan recalls the scene before the storm. There was this woman he met at the mall, and that woman was wearing the same pendant. This discovery puzzled Juan. Why would a seemingly ordinary woman target civilians? Is there any conspiracy behind this? Moments later, 3 more military trucks arrived in the distance, full of soldiers and some survivors. Surprisingly, Juan's old friend Bald Guy is also there. One of them said he had been drinking last night, but when he woke up, he inexplicably appeared on the road. Fortunately, a patrol team saw him at the time. That's why he ended up here. After talking, we learned that it was the unit that one had planned to join. Their name is 5 Mountains Barracks. It is reported that most of the survivors in the vicinity went there. Considering that it is no longer safe here, Juan immediately decided to follow the team and leave. Due to the damage to the car during the ambush just now, the group can only take transports provided by the military. At the same time, a few kilometers away from the supermarket, the masked man who escaped got into a tunnel. It's kinda creepy, dark and damp, filled with alien swarms. And here's what's even weirder. These murderous bugs didn't attack him. Instead, it automatically gave way to it. It's kind of confusing to see this. Is the so-called disaster an alien invasion? Or is it a conspiracy created by humans themselves? Subsequently, everyone arrived at the powerful May barracks. The base continues to make announcements via radio and promise to provide shelter for all. As of now, the base has taken in thousands of survivors. Its scale and influence are also expanding. In order to empower more people with force, the military is building a new defense force. Most young men join the training corps. Women are assigned to the medical team in the back. Juan's daughter is not satisfied with this. He longs to take up arms like his father. Same moment, Tano was summoned to the command center. It turned out that the officers had learned that he had been a communications soldier, and there happens to be a radio at the base. Urgently need someone to operate, and now they're going downtown to broadcast. Survivors across the country will know. I don't know the coordinates of the shelter. For what reason? Intuition made Tano refuse with the body knot. Then the bald brother who learned of the situation came over. He wanted to persuade his friends to reconsider the military's proposal. After all, this task is honorable and sacred. This statement was endorsed by Juan. He also believes that Tano should assist the military. And after much consideration, Tano finally chose to compromise. Juan and the bald guy also joined the military. A few days later, the military organized dozens of volunteers. Go to the city center, cover. On the way, several bombers were seen penetrating the clouds. The loud roar cheered everyone up. This shows that the military is fighting back with all its might. Humans have never given up hope. With the piercing whistle, a train full of volunteers rushes towards the heavy crowd. In an earth-shaking bang, the stacked cars were smashed apart. The train forcibly tore a road. However, the joy of success did not last long. The driver found out. The train was severely damaged in the impact. Next they have to walk. But if you want to move like this, you will definitely attract a heavy group of attacks. Fortunately, it is only a few hundred meters away from the target building. Juan and others had to gather together and evacuate quickly. Saw a crashed bomber on the way. It was confusing. Upon arrival at the target building, the leader divided the team into 3 groups. Technical team, portable equipment. Go to the roof and set up the launcher. The battle team builds fortifications on the perimeter. The reconnaissance team goes to investigate the passing bombers on the way. Juan is a little confused at this time. They flew the flag, drummed through the Zerg lair, but there was no resistance. Pretty soon, the reconnaissance team came to the vicinity of the crashed fighter jet. It can be seen from the logo on the outer shell. This is an Air Force fighter jet from Peru. Well known. Peru is more than 3,000 kilometers away from Argentina. Continue to investigate and find. There are several aerial bombs in the cabin. According to the accompanying military map analysis, the fighter jets targeted the riverbed in the center of the capital. Gymnasium. The few people who read the information were completely confused. They couldn't figure out what was going on. The other side is in a room on the top floor of the building. Tano has finally debugged all the equipment. A correspondent with headphones takes a deep breath, then start broadcasting to the outside world. The broadcast content is the specific coordinates of the military camp in May. Anyone who wants to come can come and seek asylum. After setting up, the technical team tuned the transmitter to automatic broadcast. But just when a few people are ready to evacuate, someone suddenly noticed the riverbed stadium in the distance. In the dark of night, the giant building was glowing with an eerie blue light. Juan immediately proposed to send someone to investigate, but the leader looked pale. The men sent to inspect the bombers have not returned. They didn't have the numbers to risk. Midnight. The few people who completed the task temporarily played the table cards. But the bald brother's performance is extremely abnormal. He not only lost round after round, even the most basic rules of bridge. Frequent mistakes are made just when everyone is confused. The bald brother suddenly exploded. He actually took out a knife and stabbed a poker friend. Then he stormed out the door and fled the scene. Juan and Tano are in hot pursuit. In the dim light, the bald brother looked at the riverbed gymnasium in the distance. Then he turned around and chose to jump off the building. Juan was puzzled by this. I can't help but wonder if my friend is an evil. Bring Juan and Tano downstairs. They ran into the patrol of the combat group again. Just as Juan was about to ask for help, the soldier suddenly shouted for his companions to come out and encircle and suppress. Then dozens of people ran towards this side. Realizing that something was wrong, Juan quickly ran for his life. He really couldn't figure out where so many people came from. Wait until a few people settled down. The brilliant Tano analyzed that. I'm afraid this disaster has been man-made from start to finish. And this mission is also a trap. If you make a bold guess, maybe Chongchuan is some kind of experiment for the military. Hearing this, one made immediate arrangements. Tano and the rich businessperson's broadcaster drive back to camp, and he and another partner go to the gym to investigate. After parting, Juan and his companions soon arrived at the River Plate Stadium. Here it is, and they saw gruesome images. There are strange people everywhere. Some of them are sleepwalking. Some are mechanical shooters. And here's what's even more incredible. Those ferocious alien bugs. The tribe is moving through the crowd. The two sides maintained a strange peace. When Juan arrived at the rooftop of the stadium, the scene in front of him made him stunned in place for a moment. Under the starry red shadow of the Zerg plunging into the atmosphere, the entire museum is filled with human and Zerg teams. They're like cash puppets being manipulated. All faces are facing the empty ceiling in the middle of the court, as if waiting for the general of some supreme being. Suddenly, such a scene makes one seem to have seen it somewhere before. A feeling of déjà vu put him in a trance. Even the companion next to him, it's a comrade in his vague memory. Too late to think, and something more sinister ensued. I saw suddenly in the pavilion in the museum burst dazzling blue light. Then came the creature behind the scenes who controlled everything. As the light gradually coalesces, a huge palm with 17 fingers poked it out. At this moment, all the humans below are looking up. There was obviously no luster in his dull eyes. Until this moment. Only then did one realize the ultimate truth behind the scenes. Everything. It's all just an alien conspiracy. In order to completely occupy human territory, they cleared it with a blizzard. Instead, he dispatched heavy swarms to sweep away the remaining humans. Because the number of humans is simply too large. So they set up what they call Camp May. There's no sanctuary there at all. It is a trap base carefully designed by alien civilizations. Get more people to join through radio. They even manipulate masked men to carry out terrorist attacks. All purpose. It's all about shaping the image of the Five Mountains camp. And all the survivors felt safe there. Obvious. On the surface, the Five Mountains barracks are people's last hope. But in fact, it's an extremely insidious place of transformation. So that explains all the weirdness before. No wonder Peruvian fighter jets are coming to carry out missions. What's even more terrifying is, right now, Juan's daughter is in training. Obviously, he will be the next batch of alien puppet soldiers. Juan, who figured it all out, was chilling all over. Thinking about it carefully, the terrifying truth made him powerless to resist. So the film ends.